Governor Evans is just finishing his first term as a Chief Administrative Officer of the state of Washington. It is conceded in the Northwest, and generally throughout the West, that if he is successful this next time around in running again, and he does have some strong competition, but if he makes it again and would then undertake to get somewhat better known throughout the country, particularly in the East and Midwest, that within another 4 years, this man could come to the next Republican convention exercising considerable political clout. He is attractive. He is articulate. Oddly enough, his background by training and education is that of a civil engineer. He served in the state legislature and was elected to the governorship.
Mayor Lindsay, Mr. Chairman, delegates and alternates to the 1968 Republican National Convention, and my fellow citizens. Dwight D. Eisenhower once defined America's goals in these eloquent words. It is, he said, lifting from the backs and from the hearts of men their burdens of arms and fears, so that they may find before them a golden age of freedom and of peace. We have come to Miami to make that vision come true, and we shall leave here to elect the next President of the United States. In a very real sense, this is the Republican hour. Today, as never before, this nation demands new leadership, the fresh breeze of new energy, a full and an honest reassessment of our national goals, a new direction for its government, and new hope for its citizens. Just as surely as we sit here this evening, there still remains a savage war in Vietnam and a savage war in the hearts of men seeking justice. We can't survive the both of them for very much longer. It's not simply a question of guns and butter. It is a matter of death abroad and poverty here at home. And I think it's time we recognize each of them for what they really are. It's time when we must have new solutions to new problems, when a leadership encumbered by the past must surrender its place to a party whose hope lies with the future. Let those who offer old promises step aside, and let those who promise new opportunities step forward. The United States is an uneasy nation on the eve of its most crucial political decision in this century. We are frustrated by the fourth most costly war in our history, a war in which we spend $1 million every 20 minutes, a war which has cost us nearly 150,000 casualties and nearly 20,000 American lives, a war which under this present administration we have not won in Saigon, cannot negotiate in Paris, and will not explain to our American people. But if we are frustrated by a war on the mainland of Asia, we are even more burdened as a nation by the crisis on the main streets of America. It's a crisis of violence and of stolen hope, a crisis of lawlessness and injustice, an impulsive, reckless dissatisfaction with what we are, and a desperate outcry for what we as a nation could be once again. Above all, we are now witness to the disintegration of the old order. Our system of welfare, so long promoted as a cure for social ills, has eliminated nothing, with the possible exception of pride and incentive and human dignity. The increasing dominance of our federal government has accomplished little except the immobilization of our states and the destruction of local initiative. The steady erosion of our cities has left us a legacy of physical decay and of human misery. For once they stood as the symbol of progress, they now founder as the graveyard of hope. And in this process, we have robbed our nation of its great resource of individual initiative and public responsibilities. We've become creatures of our system instead of engineers of progress. A nation deaf to the pleadings of the young, dumbfounded by the violence of our poor. Instead of the makers of history, we have become the victims of history. We are urged, but we're not led. We are promised, but we're not given. We are heard, but we're not heeded. Our economy stands in the constant jeopardy of inflation. Our dollar loses prestige abroad while it loses value here at home. We lose our youth in the agony of conscience as well as the agony of combat. We promote a singleness of purpose to our allies only to realize a division of purpose among ourselves. We are a nation muscle-bound by its own power, frustrated by the indecision of its leadership, and fragmented by its great differences. It is from this point that our Republican Party must now proceed. For it's not the fundamental strength of this country which is at issue, it's the leadership. The nation's great resources, its enormous capacity for goodwill, its culture and the traditions and institutions of more than 2 centuries, the skills and the arts of its people, these aren't in doubt. Only their utilization and only those who govern their use. We began in revolt against the tyranny of an old and an established order. And our institutions have remained strong, not by clinging to the past, but by adapting to our future, by giving substance and direction to the heritage of liberty and of independence. And just as strength has kept us free, so has change kept us strong. And those who fear today's upheavals might do well to examine once again the progress of this nation through more than 200 years. And what's really now at stake is whether the Republican Party, whether our party can rise above the challenges created by winds of a new direction, or whether in defiance of history we choose to retreat when the nation so clearly calls. This party, under Abraham Lincoln, resolved the question of political union and began the task of human rights. This party, under Dwight Eisenhower, restored the balance of world power and advanced the cause of social justice. And I am convinced that this party can now best resolve the problems of war and of peace which so severely test this nation. We can't remain on the sidelines while change and turmoil strike at the fabric of national purpose. For the deliverance of hope is contained in the demonstration of action, and this party, our Republican Party, for its own survival and for the sake of a nation, must be where the action is. If we can't find courage to accept leadership, then we can't expect to realize victory. There is no quarrel. There's just absolutely no quarrel that above all, our party must remain dedicated to the principles of peace through strength and equal justice within the framework of law. There is no excuse for weakness, and there's no justification for lawlessness. But we as a nation must recognize that strength isn't a substitute for sound policy, and that the rule of law cannot prevail when its foundation is corrupted by injustice and inequality. And we must recognize that unless and until we begin to deal with the matter of new priorities in this country, there will be no peace abroad and little security here at home. We have stood for 20 years in the defense of a free world. We have given as no other nation to the securing of world order and to the pursuit of human progress. And for it, we've paid a heavy price on the ledger of neglect. Not neglect in terms of ignorance, but neglect in terms of priorities. This doesn't mean, of course, that the United States should abandon its international commitments. A great power cannot view the world behind a wall of political isolation or economic protection. Nor does it imply that we should withdraw from our obligations and responsibilities to ourselves and to the people of South Vietnam. For to have entered this war by the path of error does not mean that we can leave through the door of default. But it does mean that the first priority of the United States is the resolution of our internal conflict. The recognition that if we can't unite our own nation, then we can't preserve the hope of others. It's time now to reach inward, to reach down and touch this troubled spirit of America. It's time to confront the issues of poverty and disease, of human dignity which lie beneath the violence that tears at every conscience, just as it strikes fear into every heart. Now, we have a long and a serious agenda before us, and no easy road to its accomplishment. The problems of environment, of congestion, of urban decay, and of rural stagnation did not suddenly occur. They are the residue of years, even of decades, in which we devoted too much of ourselves to size and to quantity, and not enough of ourselves to shape and to quality. They are the residue of years in which we believed that welfare was a substitute for pride, and that public charity could replace individual opportunity. But Black America and poor America are teaching us a new language. It's the language of participation. They say, let us share in your prosperity. Let us have not another generation of servitude, but a new generation of opportunity. And in this process, we're being reminded of something we all very nearly forgot: the nobility of our American dream. That to own a share in business, to realize a profit on investment, to run a factory or a shop, to produce goods and see money returned back to the community, that these, not welfare, are the things which made America great, her people rich, and her opportunity unlimited. There is no place in that society, no place in that dream for a closed society, for a system which denies opportunity because of race, or of the accident of birth, or geography, or the misfortune of a family. Only when everyone has a stake in the future of this country, only when the doors of private enterprise are open to all of us, only then will each person have something to preserve and something to build upon for his children. This nation must find a way for that to happen, and I believe that it can. For after all, a nation which rebuilt the devastated economy of Europe after World War II can surely rebuild the devastated hopes of our own minorities. And a nation which opened the frontier by offering its land to homesteaders can surely secure the future by sharing in its promise of wealth. We've heard another voice in this land. It's the voice of youth. It has served notice that satisfaction cannot be measured in dollars alone, that there is a need for service and of contribution beyond the attainment of material success. For each of our youth who have dropped out, 100 more have stayed in, some radical, some demanding, some searching, and some hoping, but all of them concerned, and who in their concern to serve their country have set out across the land to participate in the exercise of political power. Young who give of their time to the poor, the uneducated, the mentally retarded, the blind, and the helpless, who, in search of a brighter future for America, may have found themselves. And we dare not bank the fire of that hope nor should we try to remake the young in the image of ourselves. For theirs is a new spirit, a spirit of giving service, a spirit which treasures the values of brotherhood and human dignity, and proclaims that they shall not be sacrificed by personal gain. To break that spirit would be to bankrupt this nation's future. Instead, let us find the programs, let us find the resources, the opportunity for these young people to serve society and the nation, and to participate in our political system. Let us find a chance for them to be heard, not for the wisdom of their years, but for their dedication, their enterprise, and their great aspirations for this country. These are not the pleadings of a weak and a useless generation. They are the strong voices of a generation which, given a chance, can lead America to a new unity, a new purpose, and a new prosperity. Now, one group of Americans asks for economic opportunity. Another group seeks an opportunity for service. But both of them, and indeed all Americans, seek one thing above all: that their country reject the principle of a help-yourself society and instead lay the foundation for a self-help society. Instead of welfare, they ask for a stake in our capital economy. Instead of wealth, they ask for a role in creating human society. We must now begin the task, then, of rebuilding a nation, and we must do so with the same vision and resourcefulness which gave this country birth and which created the richest, the most powerful economy on the face of this earth. And for our direction and for our leadership, we must turn not alone to government. Let us turn to a new partnership, a partnership of government, private enterprise, and the individual citizen. We must bring the resources of incentive, of private planning, and of management skill into a new and a creative alliance, the capitalism of social enterprise. The problems of urban growth and rural stagnation, the need for low-cost housing, for restoring our central cities, for creating new communities, for retraining the unemployed. These needs are not apart from private enterprise. They are its newest and perhaps most significant challenge. For government can establish a direction, but it can't construct the solutions of the next 3 decades. Private enterprise can build and free labor can join, but they can't write and administer the laws which create profit opportunities and business incentives. Now, to this, we must add the most important ingredient of all: the powerful contribution of every individual citizen. The citizen who sees in the commitment of service our best hope for our nation. For it is in individual service that the hidden assets of America really lie. a community of citizens who will give of their time, their talent, and their education to the advancement of our country and of its people. There are few really so young, and there are none so old that their abilities cannot find a need or their interests an outlet. To individually tutor a disadvantaged child who has fallen behind in the process of learning, to give hope to the mentally retarded through individual training, to counsel a paroled convict in the renewed responsibilities of citizenship, to advise and assist in the redevelopment of a remote Indian village, to join together and bring pride to a community, to restore our belief in each other, to share our common burdens. It is through this great partnership of committed service that we can and will ultimately fulfill our American dream. If these goals require an investment in patience, then let us invest. If it requires money, then let us spend. But let us realize that the challenge to the Republican Party lies within the problems of America and not outside of them. It lies in the prevention of wars and not in their prosecution. In the advancement of men and not the destruction of mankind. It lies in the ghettos just as surely as in the suburbs, in the factories just as clearly as on the farms, in the hearts of all of our people and in their great and growing aspirations. The protests, the defiance of authority, the violence in the streets, these are more than isolated attacks on our established order. They are the symptoms of a need for change, a redefinition of what this country stands for and where we are going. This opportunity now rests with the Republican Party, the party which in other critical times has risen above the luxury of debate and committed itself to the difficult and demanding resolution of this nation's problems. The Republican Party is equal to the challenges of tomorrow, the challenge of a new technology, a new era of politics, of a new spirit of justice, and of a new and abiding concern for a restless society of equals. We can mobilize the millions of people who share in the dream of a country reunited, the millions who share in the belief that we can secure equality without destroying liberty, and that we can realize progress without surrendering principle. Let us proceed, therefore, not in celebration, but in the knowledge that what we do here may well determine the future of this nation. Let us debate not in fear of the future, not in fear of the present, but with faith in our future. And let us unite to rally a great party in the cause of a great nation, to seek progress with victory, to find not a way out, but a way forward.